What is the one thing you fear most in the world, and what would happen if it came true? What would you lose? What would you have to give up? But most importantly, what would you gain? Let's talk about that. But first, welcome to You Beyond. I am Professor Z. You Beyond is about you going beyond, reaching your peak potential. P to the third power, peace, purpose, and prosperity. It's about joining that 1% of people who strive to reach their best potential and live their best lives. If you are new to this channel, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Let's get to work. What is the one thing you fear most out of this world, and what would happen if it ever came true? I became financially successful, or what most people would consider financially successful, at the age of 33. And over the next few years, it grew over 12-fold. I remember my financial advisor telling me that it would take an act of God for me to go broke. Things were so well diversified. The stock market would have to fail, my businesses would have to fail, and real estate would have to go down all at the same time. In 2007, God spoke. In 2009, I had to file both business and personal bankruptcy. I went from an 8-figure budding empire to bankruptcy in about 6-7 years flat. I didn't realize it then. Filing bankruptcy did something to me. And it would take years, almost a decade, to realize what had happened and how it affected me. We all face things in life, things that happen, things that affect us in certain ways that we don't pay attention to, but those things, they tend to shape our lives in ways that we don't realize. And we act accordingly without even paying attention. This became clear to me around COVID. People were panicking, people were losing their lives, and it felt like Armageddon. And even though it wasn't quite the same situation, COVID reminded me in some ways of what happened in 2007. Businesses were closed. A lot of people were losing their businesses. People were losing their life savings because they couldn't work. People were losing their jobs. And that kind of put me in the mind of what happened in 2007. Now, I'll be honest and say that it wasn't the crash of 2007, 2008, 2009 that caused what happened with my business. There was a whole lot of other things going on, but when you take those other things compounded with what happened, that led to the contraction in my business, which led to me filing for both personal and business bankruptcy. A year later, I made more money. In 2010, I made more money than I've ever made before. Why was it? Whatever that something was that got inside of me, how did it take hold? What happened exactly? And that's what we're discussing today. Those little things that get inside of us, those little things that change the way we see the world, that change the way we behave, that gets into our brain and changes us. And we don't even realize that that change had taken place. When exactly did you realize that you gave up, that you stopped trying? And that's my question for you today. But before your brain goes and start arguing and start fighting and saying that I have not given up, I want you to consider this. When was it that you actually gave up? If you think about it, you can think of the exact moment, the exact situation, the exact time. You can think of the exact situation when you gave up, except that sometimes, most of the time, we don't realize it. I was talking to someone recently and I asked her, when was it that you gave up? And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean, when did I give up? And I asked her and I said, when was it that you gave up on yourself? When was the first time, if you could go back and think about it, when was the first time you realized that you were actually giving up on yourself? She thought about it and she said this. She used to be a track star in high school. And she remembered one time she went to a track meet, and if they won that meet, they would have gone state. And she was doing very well. She was the star of her team. And then came time for her to compete against what was considered the best team in the county. That team had won the year prior to that, had won state prior to that. She started looking at them, analyzing what they were looking like. And guess what? She faked an injury and she did not compete. As she sat there thinking about it, she said, you know what? Ever since that time, I think I lost something. That time that I gave up, that cost me something. And I have not yet regained that something that I lost. Why do we give up? What causes us to give up? The fact is, most of us right now are not living the life that we should be living. Most of us are not going after the things that we should be going after. Did you know that most people don't even want to achieve the best that they could do? And it's not just because they don't want to pay the price. A lot of the time, it's because they have given up on themselves. They have given up on their dream. And the reason for that often is because they tried one time, they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, and it scared them, and they gave up. Some of us can face something many times over without giving up. For others, it only takes one time. I had been doing business since I was 7 years old, literally. When I was 7 years old, I had my first business. My grandma had a farm, and I used to go after the guys, and after they did the harvest, I would go behind them and harvest whatever, was left behind. I would get grains, rice, corns, and things like that, and I would go to the market and sell them and save my money. I bought a pig, and then I had chickens. I was moving and shaking, right? And I learned all of that from my grandmother. But my point is this. I was doing business since I was a very young child. I know how to do business. I love businesses. I do well at businesses. That's what allowed me to be successful at the age of 33. I had just written a book and self-published a book. I had just started teaching seminars, and I had big plans, and I had this whole conglomerate of things that I was going to do. But that bankruptcy in 2009 shook me, and I did not realize to what extent that it did. It was the first time that I had failed at such a high level. I wasn't sure that I could get back there, but even if I could, I wasn't sure that I could maintain it. And to make matters worse, where I was when I ended up in bankruptcy, to me, was just the beginning. I was just laying the foundation to build upon, to get to where I really wanted to go. Even though I was building a very strong foundation, to me, it was just the first step. And when that happened, it took the wind out of me. It scared me. Ever since then, every time that I would do something business-wise, I became super cautious. I started second-guessing myself. I started asking other people for their opinions. That one thing that happened, it placed a little something in my brain that made me doubt myself. It's the sneakiness of it that is so amazing, because I did not even realize that I was doing those things. For a whole decade after that, I would do businesses, build them up, and then something inside of me would be like, remember what happened in 2009? And then it would be panic, and then I would go back down. And I kept doing that yo-yo thing over and over and over again until I came to that realization in 2020. Here's the question. What in your life right now are you using to do the same thing that I was doing then? The discovery of that for me was life-changing, because in 2020, when I realized that, I went and I built the biggest clinic I have ever built before in my life. As a matter of fact, I built the foundation of the business that I wanted to build since actually 2001. And right now, this clinic is open. Right now, it is operating. I am aware and conscious of what I used to do since 2009, and I am taking steps to prevent that from happening. So when those little voices are coming up into my brain now, I'm thinking to myself, there you go again. That's that little voice trying to remind me how I failed. What is it that's going on in your life right now? In what ways have you given up? What have you given up? What dreams were you dreaming that you're no longer dreaming? What things were you looking to do in the past that you're no longer thinking about? Were you thinking about maybe getting your degree? Maybe you were thinking about going back to school. Maybe you were thinking about opening a business or starting a side business. Maybe you were thinking about starting a YouTube channel. Maybe you were thinking about becoming something else than what you are right now. And maybe someone said something. Maybe someone you admire said something. Maybe someone you value said something. Or maybe something happened to you and you gave up. You know, they say that the cemetery is the richest place in any city or in any neighborhood. And the reason for that is because of all the dreams and aspirations that are there in that cemetery. Because of people who never really achieved or went after their goals. So their dreams died with them. What dream is dying with you right now? The fact is, most of the ideas, most of the thoughts that we use to keep us from doing the things that we set out to do are truly false. Think about it. Many, many, many billionaires have filed bankruptcy multiple times. As a matter of fact, there's a book that I read, I think it was by Napoleon Hill, don't quote me on that, where he stated that the average super multimillionaire businessman have filed bankruptcy on average 4 times. I did it once, and it almost destroyed me. My point is this: what little incident are you allowing to derail your dream, to derail your aspirations, to derail the things that you want to do, when in fact, it's really not that much of a big deal? You know, I'm sure you've heard of the fight or flight response, right? But it's really more like the fight, flight, or freeze response. When something scary happens, your body responds a certain way. Your body gets ready to fight, to run, and sometimes you just freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. But most of the time it's fight or flight. The part of your brain that's responsible to do that is a little part called the amygdala. Amygdala. I make a joke now. I call it Magdala. You know, like as in Mary Magdalene or, Magdala. I don't think that name is very popular anymore, but even though I'm from Haiti and in Haiti, that name is still there, Magdala. Amygdala. Why am I saying Magdala or Mary Magdalene? It's the name that I have given to that little part of my brain so that I can remember the name of it. Whenever a negative or a fear-based thought would come into my brain, then I would say, oh, okay, Magdala, thank you very much for your input. The job of the amygdala is to respond to fears. The amygdala causes you to respond with fear. It reminds you, remember when that happened before? Okay, let's get away from that. In my case, Magdala told me or reminded me of what happened in 2009, I was so secured financially that I could never fail. Well, remember, you failed anyway. Magdala was like, don't try, don't go there, because you might fail again and you might end up filing bankruptcy again. But what Magdala is not telling me is that even though I filed bankruptcy, I'm still standing. I did not die. Yes, people talked about me. Yes, people joked about me. Yes, I lost friends. I wouldn't say they were friends. But yes, all of those things happen. But I'm still here. And I'm a better businessman. I'm a better financial planner. I'm a better money manager because of what happened. So the things that happen don't happen to us. Oftentimes they happen for us. And then we take it and then we use it as a way for us to fail. The whole point of this is the dream that's inside of you. If it's still there, it's not too late. It is not too late. There are things I can share with you right now that I'm doing that I wanted to do by the age of 35 that I am now planning to do by the age of 55. I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to stop trying. I want to reach my peak potential. So I have now trained Magdala to tell me or to remind me we don't want to die without reaching our peak potential. And you can do the same as well. Focus on the things that you want to do. Focus on the things that you want to achieve. It's never too late. Never give up. Where there's a will, there's a way. It may sound cliche, but it is actually true. If you want to do something, if you have a true desire to make something happen, you can find a way. The thing is, the thought wouldn't have occurred to you if you couldn't make it happen. And especially if you have those recurring thoughts. It's something that you've always wanted to do. It's never gone away. Every so often you think about it, but you keep coming up with reasons, with excuses why you can't do it. But it's still there. It's still in your brain and it's not going away. Why not make it happen? Why not give it a shot? Think about it this way. If you do try, the worst thing that can happen is that you might fail. But do you really? Because I don't think you can fail by trying. The only time you fail is when you don't try at all. That happens to be true. When something bad happens, when we fail at something, we tend to quit. Today, I want you to resolve to go back and dust off all of those things you always wanted to do. I want you to join me in a new journey of achieving the things that you've always wanted to achieve, no matter where you are in life, especially if you are over 50. Hey, let me tell you, if you're in your 40s and your 50s, now is the best time to start something new. It'll keep your brain sharp. It'll keep you interesting. It'll keep you interested. And it will make life more fun. You have nothing to lose. So let's go for it. I hope that motivated you today to take a look back at some of the things that you always wanted to do. Go back and assess, when did you decide to give up on yourself, to give up on your dreams? What is that one thing you've always wanted to do that you haven't done? Why not start today? Let's get to work.